Hello fellow sim racers. Today is a day I've been looking forward to for a little while now, because I get to bring you guys a preview of the fantastic new Mosport mod for Assetto Corsa by John R. I've been eagerly watching the progress photos John has been posting over on Race Department for the last year or so, and now the mod is almost ready for its public beta release. So stick around and I'll tell you all of the details. Mosport has always been a favourite of mine. Its flowing track layout has remained largely unchanged throughout its 60-odd year history, save for a bit of widening and reprofiling. And that means, like a number of other North American circuits, it still has masses of old school cool. And it's one of those tracks that just seems to suit every car you throw at it. Whether it was the F1 heroes and Can-Am monsters of the 60s and 70s, the spaceship-like GT prototypes of the 80s, or the American Le Mans series and its present-day successor, Mosport has seen it all. So, if I'm entirely honest with you, when I found out that John was working on a version of Mosport for Assetto Corsa, I had very, nay, unreasonably high hopes. And let me tell you, this track mod doesn't disappoint. This is a good looking mod, but what about all of the stuff that really matters? Well, the starting point for this project was the discovery of aerial Lidar data for Mosport and the surrounding area. John posted this image of the cleaned up 3D ground plane that I think really visually demonstrates the value of real world data to this kind of project. Not only is the topographical information highly accurate, but even in this low resolution high altitude view you can pick out small details like tyre barriers and retaining walls, removing a whole load of guesswork. And then there's the track mesh itself, which John has compiled with reference to real-world G-load data, and I have to say, the characteristic undulating, bumpy track surface is really very well represented. As is usually the case, I compared my onboard footage to a whole host of YouTube clips, and it's all very convincing. What that all means in practice is that this is a very intuitive and rewarding track to drive. It looks and feels just right. But there's more to creating an engaging racing experience than a detailed track mesh and some fancy laser-guided Armco placement. No, for me, capturing the look and feel, and dare I say it, the spirit of the place is just as important. And I'm sure you can see for yourselves, this mod has plenty of character. This is a beta version of the mod we're looking at here, so there are a few unfinished objects and placeholders, but even as it stands, this is a very complete feeling mod. You may recognise a number of assets deployed at the circuit. John has had the assistance of Lilski throughout the process of creating Mosport, and with his guidance and selected assets, the track does have a very similar look and feel to, for example, Watkins Glen. Now, that may not seem like much of a big deal, but I can find it a bit immersion breaking going between tracks that have vastly different visual styles. So, having a series of North American tracks for Assetto Corsa that feel like they exist in the same place and time, let alone universe, is a blessing. But as is often the case, it's the graphic assets that really help bring everything together, and this is another area where this mod excels. Small details like signage, tyre marks and other trackside paraphernalia may not be all that noticeable when you're blasting past at 180 miles an hour, but without these well-observed details, tracks tend to feel sterile and, honestly, unfinished. Evidently, that's not the case here at all. Not only is Mosport technically accomplished, but it also provides some pretty fantastic driving experiences. Barreling down the hill through Clayton Corner is a borderline religious experience in some cars, and there's a real sense of accomplishment when you absolutely nail the double apex Moss hairpin. In fact, there's not a boring corner on this track, though I suppose the final 90-degree right-hander onto the start-finish straight might qualify if it weren't for the substantial curb on the inside. The AI seem pretty quick in most cars that I've tried, and do run pretty much trouble-free. I say pretty much because they do have a tendency to try and use a bit of the runoff on the outside of Moss. Charlie Whiting would be proud, but Otherwise, at least as far as my testing has gone, everything seems to work as expected. As a final note before I move on, while Mosport isn't a circuit that's lit for night racing, John has gone to the effort of placing trackside lights in various buildings around the site. So, should you choose to race after dark, it'll at least still have the feeling of a race meeting. From my perspective, Mosport was one of the big omissions from the growing library of Assetto Corsa tracks. And after waiting for a long time to get my hands on a decent version for Assetto Corsa, I can honestly say it was worth the wait. The bar has been set pretty high this year by a couple of really outstanding circuit mods, and in my opinion at least, this sits up there with the best of them. And I'm confident that the community will be all over this mod in the blink of an eye. So that almost brings us to the end of today's video, and all being well, this should be the last upload I post before Christmas. If you're interested in downloading the Mosport mod, then John is going to make the public beta version available over the holidays, and I'll update the video description and top comment with the download link as soon as it becomes available. Thanks again to John for letting me take a look at this upcoming mod. When the file arrived, it was a very nice early Christmas present indeed. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, then it would be great if you could hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you think the video will be helpful for others, then please consider sharing it. As always, thank you for donating your precious free time by watching. It is very much appreciated. So, all that's left to say is goodbye, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.